to create a brand for yourself in a saturated market. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about branding yourself, branding for actors, branding your small business, branding for artists, branding film, and a lot more branding stuff. I'm Daniel Brea. I'm a film producer and a media producer here in Los Angeles, and I help actors create careers for themselves and filmmakers create careers for themselves that stand out and penetrate through all the noise that we have all around us here. You need to have that creative and financial independence in your life, and one of the best ways to achieve that is branding. So I'm going to use an example in this video for branding as actors, so branding yourself if you are an actor. But again, remember, if you're branding yourself as a filmmaker or a small business, the rules are the same, and I might even throw in a little example like that here and there. So forgive me, I might have to refer to my notes down here every once in a while. Let's get right into it, okay? So why is a brand important? One of the biggest things that people miss out on or don't think about when they enter a new career, a creative career especially, as actors, filmmakers, small business owners, artists, is they don't consider that a brand is necessary. They sort of, or maybe they just don't give it enough time and think about actually what a brand is so that they can work that into their quote unquote business plan. Because most artists actually don't even have a business plan starting out. They just kind of go for it. They want to be actors, so they go out and they start auditioning and doing things without actually thinking about what the implications are of not having a brand as an actor. The same goes for small businesses and filmmakers. Like I said, you go out and make a movie and you don't brand your film. That's a problem, because a brand is really the thing that creates stickiness in people's minds when they think about you. So in marketing, there's two terms. There's outbound marketing. I mean, there's more than two terms, but for the sake of this argument, there's outbound marketing and there's inbound marketing. And in outbound marketing, that's like an ad, right? So that's when inbound marketing is an ad, because if you're going about your day and you see an ad and you click on it, you're inbound to the company. If we're a company and we do outbound marketing, that means we're going out and we're reaching out to people. So when you have a brand as an actor, you can look at it as your inbound strategy, like the thing that creates stickiness inside of somebody's head when they think about you. What makes you stand out? That's your brand as an actor. That's your brand as a filmmaker and a brand as a small business. Why you? Why are they thinking about you? And when you are in a saturated market where there's a lot of competition, where there's other people gunning for roles, gunning for your business, gunning for the platforms to put their film on, the distributors, you have to create something that'll make you stand out and make you memorable to the people who can make decisions about you and the people who might want to work with you again in the future. So that's the why a brand is important. So what it really is, let's go into that a little bit when you're thinking about your brand as an actor. What is that? Well, it's really kind of your essence. It's the thing that makes you you. The same if you're branding a film. The voice of the filmmaker is the brand. It's not the genre. It's not the types. It's not like you can be many different types as an actor. You can have a business that sells t-shirts like many other businesses. You can have films that are in the genre of action or drama or comedy or what have you, but that's not the brand. Those are the types and genres or the style of clothing or whatever it is. The brand for an actor, the brand for a film, the brand for a small business is the extra something that makes it unique and, like I said, makes it sticky. So that's when you think of Nike or you think of, big brands that that you can think of when you think sportswear. You can kind of rapid fire sportswear, Nike, bottled water, Evian. I'm failing to come up with a lot of examples here. Race cars, Ferrari. There are these sort of immediate things that we think of when we think of things. For me, when I think of actors, the brands are sort of like, Al Pacino's brand is different to Robert De Niro, but they can both play the same types. They can both play mobsters. They can both play corrupt cops and things like that. but their flavor and how they play it and what they bring to the table, that's really their brand. So how to think about branding yourself when you're entering this career as an actor, as a filmmaker, as a small business, and you're thinking about your brand for these things, you have to consider that if you just do what everybody else does, see, this is a common practice. People want to mimic what's successful. Many small creative businesses, in order to get off the ground, don't think, well, what is my voice here? They think, well, what are others doing that's successful? And they copy them. And they sort of inadvertently copy other people's brands, which makes them just like everybody else, because that other company was there first. So if you're going to the market and you're trying to brand yourself, or you're not branding yourself as an actor, but you're going into the market, you're auditioning a lot, and you're trying to channel these actors that you are a fan of. You're trying to act like Al Pacino on an audition, or you're trying to act like Meryl Streep on an audition. You're channeling their brand, and it's not going to work because you're not them. And oftentimes actors in auditions specifically, which, we have other videos about auditioning specifically, but they go into the audition, or they put up headshots, or they have pieces on their demo reel that they have produced or something like that, that reflect what they think other people want to see. And the problem with doing that is that they don't put their own voice into it. So really, to sum this all up, to make it very clear and simple, the brand is you. The brand is your essence. It's what you bring to the table, and it's actually what's going to make you successful. The tricky part is honing in and figuring out what exactly that is. And oftentimes we don't spend a ton of time reflecting inward. And to really understand your brand, whether it's for a business, a film, your voice as a director or a writer, as a filmmaker, even a producer, your voice as a small business owner, you might think, well, what am I? I make t-shirts. What's my brand? Well, you can start by thinking of what you're not. You can start by thinking of, well, I'm not a t-shirt brand for hikers. I'm not sportswear. And then you can start narrowing it down. Okay, what as an actor are you not? Well, I'm not, think of adjectives that define you. I'm not silly. I'm not too friendly. I'm just making things up here. And you can start honing in. And I'm sorry, I said I would do this as like an actor, but I'm hopping around between small business and filmmaker and acting. But let's go back to the acting thing. Well, if you're not silly and you're not too friendly, and you think you would fit on, films that are of a more serious nature, TV shows that are of a more serious nature, procedural televisions, shows, dramas, things like that, crime shows, crime movies, then you can start thinking, okay, well, if I were to do something exactly the way I want to do it, if nobody's watching, I often say, like, what's your in the shower personality? How do you sing in the shower? Look at the things that you really, can use to define yourself as a person, and start thinking about how you can create a marketable personality around that sort of has attributes that pull from your real life and your real experiences that others can relate to and find unique. See, maybe you're, anybody could play a pet detective, but it's Jim Carrey's specific kind of physical comedy and his wackiness that he brings to that role. Now, Steve Carell could have done the pet detective as well. We all loved him in Anchorman and things like that, but he would have brought his brand to that, and it wouldn't quite be the same. It wouldn't quite be as much physical comedy. It would be silly. He has a very fun way of making noises with his mouth and face and stuff like that. And Jim Carrey's much more physical. And he is unforgivingly himself. So, to recap, you need a brand. You need a voice. Because that's what people are going to think of if they meet you, they see a little project that you did, and then years later, they're going to think of that when a role comes along that's relevant They might think of, oh, remember that person? I saw him on that other project. That's exactly the kind of person we need here. That's what you want the brand for. With your small business, what service or product do you offer that makes people think of you when they need your service or product? You know, that special thing. And most, like, you know, businesses, they're like, oh, we're plumbers. We focus on customer service, best in customer service. No, think of something more you. You know, a good brand is like, I saw a plumbing company called like Ninja Plumbers or something, and the whole brand was like ninjas and stuff, and their clothing was all, you know, they weren't like wearing ninja suits and stuff, but they had a really cool like uniform and everything, and it just made them stand out, and it just came from the business owner's love for ninjas and stuff like that. So this might not be the best example, but in films, you know, obviously Quentin Tarantino's brand and style of filmmaking is totally different to Martin Scorsese, but they can both make period pieces and they can both make crime movies. It's just a totally different brand. And a big reason for that is product market fit, okay? And that's a story for another day, but there's another video on my channel that we discuss product market fit in, so go ahead and check that out. Otherwise, I hope this was a little bit helpful. I know it's more of an overview than an in-depth video. There's plenty of other content on this channel for you to dig into and get a little more tidbits like this, and some of them really go much more in depth. So please check out the channel, like, subscribe if you dig this content and you want more of it. And of course, comment if you have any questions or comments about this video and if you would like to see something specific. And if you're not watching this video on YouTube, please come to the YouTube channel and subscribe or watch more content here, okay? I hope to see more of you. Thank you for checking out my video, and I'll see you around.